I was halfway through slicing a reheated pork chop when Lisa's text came through like a wet slap. Spending the week at Dad's. He's not well. No punctuation, no context, no warning. I reread it 3 times before setting the knife down, letting it clang just a little too loud against the plate. Her father. The man who sends Christmas cards with his cat's paw print and hasn't been south of his porch swing in a decade. The man who, according to Lisa herself 2 weeks ago, was planning a fishing trip with his bowling buddy, and now suddenly she was spending the week with him? Out of the blue? No, hey, I'm thinking of going. No suitcase packed, no kiss goodbye. She'd left that morning in yoga pants and a sports bra, said she had a doctor's appointment. Not a word about a dying father. I replied, send my best then. Then I stared at the blinking cursor on my laptop for a few seconds before typing in my Verizon login. I hadn't needed to check our phone records in over a year, but they were still linked. Her last ping? Not Ohio, not even close. She was 18 miles away, at a town neither of us had ever stayed in before. A town known for outlet shopping and a couple's spa resort called The Pines. My stomach didn't drop. That part always seems to come later for other men. For me, it felt like watching a branch snap underwater. Slow, distant, obvious. You see it and just accept that the surface was never real to begin with. I didn't call her. I didn't text again. I just opened a new tab and began looking up property transfer timelines. Quiet things, calm things. That's how I work. The worst mistake she ever made was thinking my silence meant softness. Also, since I know more than 97% of you reading or listening haven't hit subscribe yet, do us all a favor and fix that. You're here, right? You made it this far. It helps the team more than you know. Anyway, back to her lie. I didn't even get angry. What's the point in getting mad at a magician for pulling off the same trick for the 100th time? You just start watching the hands instead. I checked her bank card activity, spa charge, room service, a wine shop, and, curious detail, a payment split at the Pines Resort, which only offers couples packages. That was the word they used, couples, not families, not guest of, just couples. The final receipt had one name on it, Lisa. I closed my laptop, turned off the lights, sat in the living room in the dark with just the glow of the aquarium in the corner, watching a single fish hover in place. It reminded me of how I'd felt for months, present, but no longer swimming forward, just existing, on display. Then I picked up my phone, not to call her, but to text someone else, my cousin Matt, who just so happened to work front desk at the Pines Resort. You working tonight? I wrote. Instant reply. Yeah, until close. I need a favor, I said. Discreet one. Say the word. I think my wife's checked in under her real name. Can you confirm if she's staying in Bungalow 21? 10 minutes later, he replied. Yep, checked in with a man. Used her name on the card. Couples weekend package. Want me to do anything? I smiled, not a warm smile, not a victorious one, more like the way a surgeon smiles before making the first cut. Clinical, focused. Yeah, I typed. I need a signature from her, something formal. Legal delivery. Can you accept a courier tomorrow at noon? Matt's reply didn't even hesitate. You got it. She won't see it coming. And she didn't. Because Lisa was many things. Impulsive, selfish, good at memorizing details for a cover story. But she was not prepared for someone like me to stop being polite. She'd grown used to the man who brought her wine when she had cramps, who apologized first even when he didn't start the fight, who covered when her sister asked too many questions about those late work nights. But now she was about to meet the other man, the one who learned how to weaponize disappointment, the one who could dismantle a marriage with a smile and a notarized envelope. She wanted a week away from me. She'd get the rest of her life. I didn't throw a fit, didn't rage, didn't call her screaming like some humiliated sitcom husband with a wine bottle in one hand and a broken heart in the other. That would have been giving her too much credit and me too little. No, I moved with precision, quietly, like I was cleaning a wound I had no intention of stitching shut. First thing, I logged into our joint bank account. She'd never noticed when I switched to digital-only statements. I'd done it over a year ago after she forgot to shred the last one and left it on the passenger seat of her car, right next to a receipt from a high-end boutique in a city she supposedly never visited. I marked it back then as the first real crack. Didn't say a word, just started documenting. Now, I moved my half into a separate personal account, nothing flashy, just enough to prevent her from draining it while sipping Cabernet in a borrowed bathrobe. I also froze the credit cards we shared, left one active for emergencies with a hard limit she couldn't breach at any boutique or spa. Next, I called the lawyer. I'd been sitting on a draft of divorce papers for 4 months. Never signed, not out of hope, out of timing. There's a moment when a man stops asking why and starts asking how. I'd been waiting for that moment. Now it was here. "Alan," I said when he picked up, "it's time." He didn't ask questions. That's why he's my lawyer. "You want to come in and sign?" "No, I want them served. Tomorrow. At the Pines Resort. Bungalow 21. There was a pause, then a chuckle. "I'll have the courier deliver them by noon. Do you want her to sign for them?" "That's the idea." Then I texted Matt again. "Still working tomorrow?" "Yeah, noon to close." "You'll get an envelope from a courier. Can you make sure Lisa signs for it?" "You want me to film it?" I thought about that. "No, just confirm receipt. That'll be enough." Matt had no clue what was inside that envelope. Just that it needed to reach a woman who had lied with such amateur sloppiness. It felt like she wanted to be caught. Lisa wasn't the kind of person who cheated out of passion. She did it out of boredom. She liked new things, new faces, new stories to tell her friends, where she was the exciting one, the center of a room. She hadn't realized I'd stopped orbiting around her a long time ago. She was a planet without gravity now, just spinning, fast, directionless. The man she brought to Bungalow 21? I'd seen him once, 3 months ago, at a hardware store. He'd helped her load a new patio umbrella into her car while I was on a work trip. My neighbor mentioned it in passing, said he thought it was her brother. Lisa doesn't have a brother. I logged that away too. Now he'd get to watch her open a thick white envelope on vacation, watch her lips read the line, notice of intent to divorce, watch her hand shake as she flipped to the evidence pages, financial records, itemized transactions, security logs from our smart home system showing when she came and went, and yes, even a few photos, not salacious, just damning. I printed everything on bonded paper, not because it mattered legally, but because texture matters. She would feel the weight, tactile proof that I hadn't just found out. I had prepared. Then, the final step. I drafted an email. Subject line, "For awareness only. Recipients, 6. My accountant, my attorney, my brother, Lisa's sister, her best friend, and a copy to myself." It included a timeline, dates, transactions, no editorializing, no rants, just a polite outline of the facts, along with a scanned copy of the delivery confirmation. Once it came in, I didn't intend to humiliate her. I intended to end the performance. Publicly, cleanly, and without giving her space to spin a new version of the truth. The woman she pretended to be, the martyr wife caring for her ailing father, was about to be replaced by the woman everyone saw when the curtain fell. As I hit send, I sat back in the office chair and noticed something strange. I wasn't sad. Maybe I had been once, months ago, but now it just felt like I was making space, clearing out a tenant who'd overstayed her lease in my life, and the eviction notice would be signed, sealed, and hand-delivered by noon. Lisa stretched out under a striped umbrella, legs propped, phone face down, a half-empty wine glass perched precariously on the wicker table beside her. Her robe, hotel-issued and monogrammed, slipped slightly off one shoulder in that way she knew looked casual but intentional. She wasn't worried, not about the lie, not about Neil, and certainly not about getting caught. She figured if anything ever came up, she could spin her way out of it. She always had. "Another?" her companion asked. Michael, or maybe Mitchell. She honestly hadn't committed. His name didn't matter so much as the way he looked at her, like she was still in her 30s and mysterious. "Why not?" she said, twirling her hand lazily in the air. He poured. They toasted. No one mentioned Ohio. No one mentioned fathers. Just compliments. Vague talk about the resort's eucalyptus steam room and a playful plan to spend the evening in their private soaking tub. Then the concierge arrived. "Pardon the interruption," the young woman said gently, holding a silver tray with a single envelope on it. "I have a delivery for Elisa Moon." She tilted the card slightly. "Lisa Morton?" Lisa blinked. She'd used her full name for the reservation. She always did. Neil was the one who liked aliases and unnecessary secrecy. "That's me," she said, sitting up straighter. She reached for the envelope, smiling. "Did I order something?" The concierge gave a quick bow of the head, trained not to answer questions. Just needed your signature. Lisa scribbled her name with a pink glitter-tipped nail and took the envelope. It was thick. Not a card, definitely not a room upgrade. It had that weighted feel, legal documents. Paper that mattered. Mitchell, or whatever his name was, leaned over. Secret admirer? She gave a hollow laugh. Probably my sister mailing something dramatic. She still sends me snail mail like it's 1997. She waved the envelope like a joke and stood. Be right back. Need to put this somewhere before the wine gets to me. She walked toward Bungalow 21, but slower now. Her steps, once lazy and loose, tightened slightly. That envelope didn't feel like a joke anymore. Inside the bungalow, she locked the door behind her. She peeled off the robe and tossed it onto the bed. The envelope sat on the dresser like it had grown heavier in the short walk from the pool. She opened it with a nail. No tearing, just a gentle slide. The first page hit like a truck. Notice of intent to divorce. Morton v. Morton. Her name, in bold. She blinked, scanned the rest. Filed in her state, full documentation included. Her mouth opened involuntarily. No sound came out. She flipped to the second page, and the third. Financial exhibits, time-stamped evidence, GPS records, her transactions at the resort, screen captures from their shared account, ones she assumed he never looked at. Her wine glass from the pool now seemed to buzz through her veins like static. Then she saw it, a photograph. Not raunchy, not dramatic, just conclusive. Her and Michael, whatever, sitting poolside, laughing, his hand on her thigh, clear as a commercial, taken from a distance. Crisp. She dropped the envelope onto the bed. The AC kicked on. A chill crept over her bare arms. Her first instinct was panic, then anger, then confusion, but mostly confusion. Neil had done this, the man who once apologized for breathing too loudly during her book club Zoom, the man who still refilled her favorite tea without her asking, even after she accidentally dropped his anniversary gift off the balcony last year. She scrambled for her phone. 39 missed calls later, she'd add rage to the mix. But not yet. First, she needed to understand what this even meant. Was he serious? Was this some warning shot? But Neil didn't fire warning shots. He didn't do drama. That's what made this feel so much worse. This wasn't just a reaction. This had been in the works. Planned, executed. She pulled the robe back on, not bothering to tie it, walked back to the pool in a daze. Mitchell saw her face. Hey, you okay? She didn't answer right away. She sat down, slowly, glassy-eyed. She took a sip of the wine, then stopped. Her hands were shaking. She looked at him, mouth open, trying to form words that wouldn't come. I need to make a call, he shrugged. Everything cool? She didn't respond. She just picked up her phone and walked away without looking back. The robe dragged slightly behind her like a tale of shame. And in that quiet corridor between the pool and the private suites, for the first time, Lisa realized something she hadn't expected to feel at all this weekend. Fear, not of Neil's anger, but of Neil's silence. The envelope lay wide open on the bed like a trap that had already snapped shut. Lisa sat cross-legged in the middle of it all, papers strewn around her like wreckage from a mid-air collision. The wine glass teetered at the edge of the nightstand, still untouched since she returned from the pool, until her elbow clipped it. Red bled into the beige carpet like something living. She didn't notice, or didn't care. Notice of intent to divorce, she read again out loud, like if she repeated it, the words would rearrange themselves into something less apocalyptic. Her voice cracked halfway through, lips dry and trembling. No. What the hell is this? She whispered to no one. She grabbed her phone and jabbed at Neil's contact. It rang once, straight to voicemail. She called again. Same result. Neil, you're being ridiculous, she hissed into the phone. Just call me. Let's talk about this. She hung up and immediately dialed again and again and again. By the 12th try, the facade had started crumbling. Her voice on the voicemails shifted from confused to shrill, from pleading to scathing. By call 19, she was crying. By 26, she was screaming. Neil, answer the goddamn phone. By 39, her thumb hovered over the screen, hand shaking, eyes swollen. her breath shallow and uneven. She pressed redial once more out of muscle memory, and when it went to voicemail again, she let out a guttural sound, half sob, half rage, and hurled the phone across the room. It hit the sliding glass door and dropped like a dead bird. "You have to be kidding me," she shouted, voice echoing off the glass walls. She whirled around, catching sight of Mitchell, now standing awkwardly by the dresser, his shirt half buttoned, holding a bottle of Prosecco like it was a shield. He looked at her the way someone looks at a stranger having a breakdown in public. Cautious, detached, mildly embarrassed. His body language had changed, more distance, less playfulness, like he was slowly realizing he had boarded the wrong flight. Lisa stared at him, breathing hard. "You knew something, didn't you?" His brow furrowed. "What? No. Lisa, this wasn't supposed to be." "Oh, save it," she snapped. "Don't act like you didn't know he was suspicious. You're the one who told me to keep it quiet." Mitchell raised both hands, still clutching the bottle. "Look, I didn't sign up for this, okay? I thought we were just getting away for a bit. You said you were married but separated. You said he didn't care." She scoffed. "So now you're a saint? That's rich." He shook his head and took a step back toward the door. "This isn't what I want to be in the middle of. I didn't even bring a bag." Lisa followed him with her eyes, and for a brief second her voice softened, almost imploring. Just wait a second. I just need to talk to him. Once I explain everything, it'll calm down. He doesn't do drama. He's not like this." But even she didn't believe it as the words came out. Mitchell glanced toward the broken phone. "He kinda is like this, apparently." Then he walked to the door, opened it, and paused. "Good luck, Lisa." He didn't slam it. He didn't say goodbye. He just left, letting the soft mechanical click of the door latch speak for him. And just like that, she was alone. She stood frozen in the middle of Bungalow 21, the wreckage around her now fully visible, the spilled wine soaking into the carpet, the papers fanned out like legal shrapnel, the silence thicker than the humidity outside. She bent down slowly, picked up the envelope again, and flipped to the last page. "All assets have been frozen pending division. You are to contact legal counsel for item retrieval within 14 business days." Her knees gave out. She sat on the floor, robe bunched awkwardly around her, hair clinging to her damp forehead. The envelope slid from her hands. Outside, birds chirped, the pool buzzed with idle laughter, and a soft breeze rustled the patio curtains. Everything continued like it hadn't noticed that her life had just ruptured. Neil wasn't yelling. He wasn't even responding. And that, somehow, was worse than anything she could have imagined. Lisa woke up disoriented, face still pressed into a tear-stained towel, her robe twisted around her like it had tried to abandon ship during the night. The light had shifted. Morning now. Too bright. Too real. Her head pounded, not from alcohol but from the emotional whiplash of the previous day. The envelope, still open, mocked her from the nightstand. Pages curled at the corners, evidence of her unraveling, documented in triplicate. The first thought she had was escape. She didn't even shower, just threw on a sundress, half-buttoned it, grabbed her duffel and sunglasses, and marched out of Bungalow 21 like she had a plan. Her makeup was still smudged from the night before. She didn't care. The front desk was less than a minute's walk away, one short walk between her and distance from this nightmare. She approached the lobby, heart thumping like it was trying to defect. The same concierge from yesterday greeted her with the same polished smile. "Good morning, Ms. Morton. How can I help you?" "I need to check out," she said quickly. "Early. Change of plans." "Of course. One moment." The concierge tapped at the keyboard. Lisa stood, arms crossed, sunglasses shielding her expression, but her foot bouncing uncontrollably. Then came the pause, the kind of pause that only exists in movies, before a judge reads the verdict. The concierge murmured, eyes narrowing slightly at the screen. "I'm afraid I can't process that request." Lisa's foot stopped. "Why not?" "The reservation was made under a different name. Neil Morton. Prepaid. Non-refundable package. 7 days. Through Sunday." Lisa blinked. "I am Lisa Morton. I'm his wife." "I understand," the concierge said, still pleasant but firmer now. "However, only the booking party may authorize early checkout and changes to the reservation. And, according to the system, no such request has been made." She stared at the woman like she'd just spoken in tongues. "So I'm just stuck here?" The concierge offered a polite smile. The amenities remain available to you. Is there anything else I can assist with? Lisa clenched her jaw. I'll call a car. She stepped away, fumbled with her phone, and opened the rideshare app. No cars available within 45 minutes. She checked the resort shuttle schedule. Next departure was after 3 p.m. She looked back at the concierge as if the answer would change just because she was now desperate instead of rude. Any cars available through the hotel? She asked, trying to sound composed. We can arrange for a private car, the concierge replied. However, we're currently fully booked for guest pickups and airport runs. Earliest availability would be after 2:45. Lisa laughed, short and sharp. You've got to be kidding me. The concierge didn't blink. Would you like to reserve that slot? No, Lisa snapped. I'll figure it out. She turned and stormed toward the exit, the glass doors hissing open too slowly for her mood. Outside, the sun mocked her with its calmness. The chirping birds, the rustling trees, the distant sound of poolside music, it all sounded like a parody of peace. She walked halfway across the parking lot before stopping and realizing she didn't know where she was going. Her phone buzzed. Some push notification, not Neil. Never Neil. He hadn't replied. He wouldn't. She opened her messages again, scrolling through her 39 voicemails. Not one answered. The silence had become its own language. Cold, intentional, absolute. Her feet turned her back toward the bungalow like she had a choice. Inside Bungalow 21, the air was thick. The walls seemed smaller. The bed, once inviting, now looked clinical. Sterile sheets wrapped around the ruins of her marriage. She sat down, slowly. The silence in the room wasn't peaceful anymore. It was punitive. Every piece of Dacre looked like it had been chosen to observe her shame. She tried calling her sister. No answer. Tried her best friend. Straight to voicemail. She opened Instagram. Refreshed. Nothing new. No distractions. Just her own reflection, staring back at her through the dark screen. She threw the phone aside and covered her face with her hands. Neil hadn't just exposed her, he'd made sure she couldn't run. Even the bungalow, with its plush linens and curated calm, had become a cage. And the worst part? He hadn't even raised his voice. She was trapped in a luxury suite paid for by the man she betrayed, surrounded by the quiet perfection of her own consequences. The exit wasn't just closed. It never existed. Lisa always thought she could control the narrative, spin it just enough to stay the sympathetic one, emotionally neglected, confused, trapped in a stale marriage. She'd rehearsed the lines in her head long before she'd ever packed that robe into her weekender bag. She thought she'd have time to cushion the blow, to twist reality into something manageable before anyone else could weigh in. She didn't account for Neil's cousin Matt, the same cousin who handed her that envelope with the same neutral expression one might use delivering towels. The same cousin who worked front desk at the very resort she chose for her sabbatical. The same cousin who just happened to snap 3 high-resolution photos on his break, one of Lisa and Mitchell, Michael, whoever, holding hands on the edge of the hot tub, one of them mid-kiss near the cabana, and one with her curled under his arm as he fed her strawberries by the pool like some badly written commercial. Matt wasn't dramatic, he wasn't vengeful, he was thorough. That afternoon, a quiet email began circulating. No drama, no CC spamming. Just a cold, efficient whisper passed through inboxes with surgical precision. Subject: sometimes the truth needs light. No body text. Just 3 attachments. No captions. No accusations. Just still frames that together rewrote the entire story Lisa had hoped to sell. By 3:47 p.m., Lisa's sister Dana received the email. By 3:49, she texted, "Don't ever drag Dad's name into your lies again." That one hurt, because Dana had always been the buffer, the fixer between Lisa's recklessness and the real world. She was the one who offered excuses on Lisa's behalf at family dinners, the one who defended her decisions, even when they smelled like gasoline and sounded like sirens. Lisa replied, "It's not what it looks like." No answer. By 4:15 p.m., her group chat with 4 old friends, women who once stood by her at her wedding, went silent. The last message in the thread was a single image, a screen grab of the email. She typed a reply, deleted it, typed again, backspaced. At 5:02 p.m., her best friend Melissa, who had stood beside her during every meltdown and makeover since college. Blocked her. Not muted, not taking space. Blocked. The little profile bubble turned to gray, messages undelivered. Lisa stared at the screen like it had betrayed her personally. What the hell is wrong with everyone? She muttered. She called, straight to voicemail. Mel, seriously, this is insane. You know me. You know Neil hasn't been present for years. I didn't plan this. It just happened. Call me back, okay? Please. She hung up, refreshed, still blocked. By 6:30 p.m., the fallout had made it to the neighborhood. She started getting side eyes from people at the resort who had no business knowing her name. A woman near the spa raised an eyebrow when she passed, glanced at her companion, and whispered just loud enough for Lisa to hear. That's her. Lisa kept walking. She returned to the bungalow and found that even the air inside seemed different, stale, accusing. She flipped on the TV for noise but couldn't focus. She tried reading, but the words refused to cooperate. By 8 o'clock p.m., she was sitting on the edge of the bed, knees pulled to her chest, scrolling through her contacts, most of them grayed out, people who'd either blocked her or wouldn't take the risk of picking a side. She opened Facebook, tried to post something vague, something that could explain, hint at the pain, reset the tone, but her post was up for less than 10 minutes before the first comment rolled in. You're not the victim here. She deleted it immediately. Her world hadn't just gotten smaller, it had inverted. What used to be her circle of supporters had turned into an arena, and she was center stage, unarmed, exposed, and unwanted. No matter how fast she refreshed, no message came in from Neil. No one was defending her. No one asked her side of the story because the pictures didn't need interpretation. And the man who sent them, he hadn't uttered a single word. He didn't have to. The truth had done all the speaking for him. One email, 3 images, and a silence so precise it cut deeper than any accusation could. And now, as the whispers spread like cracks through every part of her life, Lisa sat alone in Bungalow 21, looking out the window at the pool where she thought she was safe, where she thought no one would notice. But they had, and they were talking. By the time Lisa left the resort, she looked like someone who had just crawled out from under an avalanche, dazed, bruised by silence, and gripping a phone that had become a useless talisman instead of a lifeline. She didn't wait for the resort car. She begged a ride from a concierge trainee who recognized her from the photos, and didn't even try to hide the discomfort in his voice. It was a quiet drive, at least from her end. The driver talked about traffic, construction, gas prices. Lisa stared out the window, replying only with nods and soft grunts, every mile home thickening her pulse. She kept checking her phone, but it was no use. Her messages had gone unread. Her calls declined. The people who once adored her now wouldn't even entertain a response. She imagined the house, her safe haven, her reset button, where she could wash her hair, put on soft pajamas, pour herself a drink, and wait for things to blow over. Neil would come around. He always had. He just needed to cool off, right? She pulled up and stepped out into the warm dusk light, purse clutched tight. Her sandals scraped the driveway as she quick walked to the front porch, sunglasses still on, though the sun had nearly disappeared. She reached for the door. The key didn't fit. She blinked, tried again, slower, jammed it, jiggled it, twisted harder. Nothing. She tried the back door. Same. Panic crept in like smoke under a door. She ran back to the front, heart pounding now, not from betrayal or shame, but pure confusion. And that's when she saw it. A piece of printer paper taped neatly to the front door, mail forwarded, belongings boxed, contact attorney for pickup window, no signature, no emotion, just pure administrative efficiency, the tone of someone who didn't even care if she cried reading it. She yanked the paper off the door, crumpling it in her fist. "Neil!" she yelled, hammering the door with the side of her fist. "Neil, are you in there? Open the door, goddammit!" Silence. The porch light clicked on automatically. Sensing motion, not sentiment. She screamed again. "This is my house, too. You don't get to just lock me out." From across the street, curtains shifted. Someone peeked. The neighbor, Mr. Carson, who once helped her carrying groceries, who once complimented her Halloween decorations. He watched from behind the blinds for a second, then disappeared. "Don't just stare. Someone say something," she shouted, voice cracking. Another window fluttered across the street, but no doors opened, no footsteps approached. Lisa stood there, shaking, staring at a home that no longer answered to her. The mailbox had her name covered in masking tape. The flower pots on the porch had been removed, even the small chime she'd hung near the gutter. Gone. Nothing remained of her touch. It looked like a place she'd never lived. She pulled out her phone, called Neil again, voicemail. She threw the phone onto the grass, chest heaving. The rage had burned out. Now only the ache remained, the sour weight in her throat that said, this wasn't temporary, this wasn't a phase, this was final. She sat on the top step, legs curled up, head in her hands. She could still smell the jasmine from the bush Neil had planted 2 springs ago, her favorite scent. That bush was blooming without her. The house glowed warmly from the inside, the blinds shut, the locks changed, her name removed, her presence forgotten. She didn't know where her belongings were. She didn't know who had packed them. She didn't know when it had happened. And she realized in that moment the scariest part wasn't being left. It was being erased, piece by piece, photo by photo, key by key. She had left a marriage for a weekend fling. He had left a door and an entire life shut behind her. Lisa looked around at the neighborhood she used to own like a stage. Now it was an audience, watching her fall from grace, watching her scream at a house that didn't remember her. No one came to the porch. No one asked if she was okay. And for the first time in her life, Lisa Morton had nowhere to go. It took her 2 days to find a place to stay. A friend of a friend with a guest room and enough pity in her eyes to make Lisa want to vomit every time she thanked her. She told herself it was temporary, that she'd get a lawyer, talk to Neil, set the record straight, maybe spin a little of the old charm, and diffuse this thing before it hardened into something permanent. But when her attorney finally called, the voice on the other end didn't sound like someone negotiating. It sounded like someone reading a verdict. Lisa, he began, not with the fake empathy she expected, but with the tone of a tired ER doctor delivering facts over a blood-soaked gurney. He filed clean, very clean. What does that mean? She asked, curled up on a stranger's couch, the throw blanket itching her knees. It means he prepared, months ago. I've never seen documentation this tight outside of corporate mergers. You're listed with timestamps, financial audits, surveillance logs. She cut him off. Surveillance? Security footage from the house, he continued, unfazed. He installed a new system 8 months back. You probably didn't notice. She hadn't, or maybe she had, and just assumed it was the kind of tech Neil always played with. He liked gadgets. She dismissed it. There are phone logs, GPS records, even digital backups of your texts. He's already submitted the package to the mediator. Frankly, you'd be better off not contesting it. Her throat tightened. He can't just take everything. That's not how this works. Her attorney was silent for a beat, then, he already has. What do you mean? You were removed from the joint accounts 3 weeks ago, legally. The account separation was documented, approved, and processed before the papers were served. Lisa sat upright. But I didn't sign anything. You didn't need to. You both had independent access. He moved his half into a new account under his name. Yours is untouched, but the automatic drafts for shared expenses, he canceled them. You're currently sitting on an account with just under $900 and a Discover card with a $14,000 balance. She gripped the phone tighter. The lake house, transferred into a family trust, irrevocable. Her blood went cold. That's my house too. I painted the kitchen. He transferred it before filing, with witnesses. He didn't need your consent. His father's name was still on the title from before you were married. It was structured as a gift, legally sound. Lisa stood pacing. Okay, what about the Tesla? That's under both our names. He relinquished his claim, left it to you, the vehicle is yours, along with one dresser set and the guest bedroom mattress. She froze. That's all? No spousal support, no alimony. You signed a prenup in 2011, remember? At the time, you laughed about it, said it was so unromantic. She remembered. Neil had insisted. She thought it made her seem modern, independent. And now that same document was the steel trap snapping shut around her. Lisa dropped onto the edge of the borrowed bed, her knees suddenly weak. He can't do this. He can't. I gave him 15 years. You gave him the leverage, the attorney interrupted, calm but firm. Lisa, I'll represent you, but if you're looking for a war, you're already in the wrong trench. This man had the field map before you stepped foot on it. There was a long pause, then her voice small. He's really not coming back, is he? No. She closed her eyes. I thought he'd always be there, she whispered. That, the attorney said, is what he's counting on you saying. Every woman who assumes the man won't walk. until he already has. Lisa didn't answer. Her mind was already spinning into the void, not just about the house, the accounts, or the car, but about the long, slow erosion she had ignored, the dinners Neil made when she said she was too tired from meetings, the notes he left by her coffee, the way he always offered the bigger side of the bed, even after they stopped touching. She hadn't just underestimated him, she had deleted him, muted him, rewritten him into a background extra in her own life script, and now, standing in the rubble of a life she assumed was permanent, she realized something far more terrifying than being divorced. She had no idea who she'd actually married. Because that man, the one who filed clean, who boxed her out, who moved like a surgeon carving out rot, had never once raised his voice. But he had, apparently, kept receipts. All of them. The screen was dim from disuse. Lisa stared at it for nearly an hour before she found the nerve to tap Neil's name again, not because she believed he'd answer, that fantasy had long crumbled, but because silence was starting to feel heavier than humiliation. She needed something, a noise, a flicker, anything that hinted the door hadn't fully closed. It was after midnight. Her borrowed bed creaked as she shifted to sit up, knees to chest, blanket pulled tightly around her shoulders like a shield. Her thumb hovered over the call button. One press, and she'd be all in. No pride, no defenses, just her voice, naked and pleading, sent into the dark like a message in a bottle, fully aware it might never wash up anywhere. She pressed it. It rang once. Voicemail, of course. She waited for the beep, then exhaled like it was the last piece of air she owned. Neil, I know you don't want to hear from me. I wouldn't either, she began, her voice already splintering. But I need to say this. She paused. Her hand trembled, but she didn't stop. I messed up. I know that sounds small compared to what I did, but it's the truth. I lied. I hurt you. And I thought you'd just tolerate it like you always do. That you'd forgive me eventually, because you always do. She closed her eyes. But you didn't this time. You shouldn't have. I see that now. Her throat clenched. She forced herself to keep going. I'm not asking for everything back. I'm not trying to undo what happened. I need to talk to you. I need to hear your voice. Just once, please. You were my best friend before anything else, and I let that die. I'm so sorry. Her voice cracked completely now, barely audible. Can we talk? She waited a beat, as if expecting him to somehow answer mid-voicemail. He didn't. Please. Click. End call. The phone returned to stillness, screen fading back into black. Lisa stared into it like it held a mirror. In that moment, she wasn't the poised woman with clever captions and curated brunches. She wasn't the master of reinvention or the dazzling conversationalist who always got the last word. She was just a woman in someone else's house, whispering into a void where a marriage used to be. She set the phone down gently, as if afraid to startle the silence. Minutes passed, then an hour. She didn't expect a reply. Which is why, when the phone dinged at 1:22 a.m., the sound almost made her drop it. Neil. Just one message. She unlocked the screen so quickly her thumb fumbled twice. The text was short. Surgical. Not cruel. Just final. There's no we left to talk. No punctuation, no anger, just truth. She read it once, twice, then again. It was the kind of sentence that didn't need interpretation. It didn't invite a response. It didn't threaten or gloat or leave any gaps for hope to crawl through. It just ended things. Completely. And with that, the weight dropped. She didn't cry. There was nothing left to wring out. No tears, no bargaining chips, no denial to grip onto. The phone slid from her hand and landed on the comforter. She lay back, eyes open, staring at the ceiling fan above her, still turning in lazy circles like it had all the time in the world. She didn't, not anymore. Neil hadn't yelled. He hadn't posted anything public. He hadn't exposed her to the world like she feared. He'd done something far worse. He'd walked away without looking back. And he'd left nothing for her to chase. The coals were just right. Low, glowing, radiating that steady heat only patience can earn. Neil stood over the grill on a modest wooden deck, tongs in one hand, glass of bourbon in the other. The lake in front of him mirrored the late afternoon sun in ripples, a slow dance of light and calm. Somewhere nearby, a cardinal chirped, oblivious to everything but its own rhythm. You gonna flip those, or just admire them into perfection? His friend Mark called from the lounge chair behind him. Neil smirked. Perfection doesn't like to be rushed. They laughed. It wasn't the hollow kind of laughter that fills gaps at parties. It was earned, easy, honest. Neil had lost weight. Or maybe just baggage. Either way, his face looked different now, rested, like a man who had finally stepped out of a long, unmarked tunnel and realized he wasn't carrying anything anymore. The phone buzzed against the deck railing. He didn't reach for it immediately. He already knew who it was. Lisa. She'd waited 3 weeks this time. No calls, no voicemails, just silence. Perhaps to prove she could match it, or maybe hoping the absence would create mystery instead of distance. He finally picked it up and looked. One line. I'm sorry. Truly. No flourishes, no dramatics. Just those 2 words, as if conciseness would cut deeper than poetry. He stared at the message for a long moment, bourbon pressed to his lower lip. Then slowly he set the glass down, tapped and held the screen, and hit delete. No reply, no rage, no snide sarcasm, no gloating, just deletion, like erasing a typo from a sentence that no longer needed editing. Mark raised an eyebrow. Everything good? Neil shrugged, flipping the stakes. Better than good. The wind picked up slightly, rustling the pine trees behind them. The sound of water lapping against the dock filled the quiet. Neil breathed it in like a man tasting life for the first time in years. Lisa didn't know where he was. He'd made sure that the address wasn't shared, the new number wasn't public. Even the legal correspondence now went through his attorney's assistant. She couldn't touch this version of him because she never really knew him to begin with. The man who grilled his own food, who kept company without checking who was watching, who sipped bourbon slowly instead of buying overpriced wine to impress dinner guests. He had always been there. She just never asked to meet him. And now, she couldn't. Lisa's last message joined the rest, buried in a digital graveyard of unread attempts. Her apologies were echoes with no canyon to bounce back from. Neil took the steaks off the grill, plated them carefully, and handed one to Mark. To peace, Mark said, raising his glass. Neil raised his back, but he didn't toast to peace. He lived it. He sat down, feet kicked up, plate on his lap, watching the lake breathe. A life without noise, without spinning stories, without being turned into a footnote in someone else's performance. There was no comeback, no revenge speech, no courtroom climax, just this, stillness. Something she couldn't interrupt anymore. And that finally was enough.